something a little bit more serious now. Could a miscalculation in Tehran deliver a GOP landslide in November? I don't think the question has been asked frequently enough. And the obvious reason for some of the doubt about posing the question is, why would that have that effect? And this goes back to something that's fundamental to social media discussion now, which is the generational divide. What is vivid to you in terms of history and what is not? And if we went back to the encounter, which is one of the most remarkable English-speaking news encounters, interview, commentary encounters of the Trump era, is that fatal business with Piers Morgan from Britain interviewing Nick Fuentes, where Nick Fuentes describes Hitler as cool. Now, the issue, as I've explained it, and that's my take on it, was that as I was born 3 years after Auschwitz was liberated, and Nick Fuentes is 27 years old, the vividness of the Second World War to me, compared to him, is a different thing. Now, what's different in my approach here is that I having discovered this gap, realized, I thought, why did he say that? And then pursued it a bit and realized, now I understand what he means by saying that. Partly to irritate the old people, which he succeeded beautifully, but also to make a point. And I think, by and large, my generation of old people have just been irritated and have not paid attention. And I'm very keen to pay attention to the young people. I mean, having been one of the advantages of being a university educator is that you spend time with young people. I mean, I'm interested in them and their formation and what they make in their lives, and it's something. And I feel a real sense of solidarity with people in their 20s, for example. Hence, my different response to Nick Fuentes and that whole business. Now, Tehran and the GOP. History. 9/11, the 2001 September attack on the World Trade Center in New York, provoked another of our forever wars in the Middle East, tremendous cost, and the blood cost was not trivial. But that wasn't the point. The point was it united the American people uncritically behind the administration in power and a willingness to pursue the war to a kind of bitter end. Now, throughout all of this, and this continues to be the case, for example, if you look up copyright-free photos of 9/11, the events, by and large, you're confronted with a set of celebrations of the sacrifice of the people who died, of emblems of it, and the memorial ground. There's hardly a picture of the buildings themselves being attacked with the planes and what have you. But really, the real tragedy of all this was the failure to ask why that happened. And this is a function of the American psychology of being, most of the time, distracted. And then something big happens, and all of a sudden the country stops being distracted and pulls together. But they pull together, as I said, by and large, uncritically. So, victory, war, and mobilize, and sacrifice, but why? I don't enter into it. And someone who asks why tends to get booed out of the room. Now, the consequences of 9/11 for the American economy were dreadful. The cost of the wars in the Middle East, oh my goodness, and to no end. It solved nothing. Iraq and Afghanistan are not in better shape of the consequences of our intervention. Now, given that, these moments of sudden, transformation, when a divided country pulls itself together uncritically, is what Iran can provoke now by doing something insufficiently cautious. Now, for my generation, the older generation, Pearl Harbor is the example of the same. And the isolation, the America First movement that existed and so influenced the 1940 election against Roosevelt, the America First movement was swept away by Pearl Harbor. I mean, overnight. They had no grounds of any sort. I mean, there were complaints about, what had actually happened and did Roosevelt provoke the Japanese and all kinds of stuff. But by and large, of no consequence. The country pulled together. America First was swept effectively away as a political force of consequence. And the country went to war and stayed in that internationalist, we have to be involved in the world to be safe motif, which has only recently ended. And the debate over the Iran-Israel war is maybe the end of that whole episode. But in the meantime, it's there. In the meantime, it happened at Pearl Harbor. The whole country came together uncritically. No one asked, why did the Japanese do it? And what's going on here? They were distracted. They were leading their daily lives, as I said, family, business, local affairs. America's a big country, and it's inward looking. So isolationism, cultural isolationism, news isolationism is a given. And then you have something big, which shatters this tranquility, if you will. And all of a sudden, people, start reading their newspapers in Idaho, and it's in a different mode. Now, that's what Iran could do. Now, what could Iran do? For example, this business of threatening the aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, or any of its equivalent, to sink that. 6,000 sailors go down. And remember the Maine. Remember the conspiracy at the Spanish-American War to blow up an American warship in Havana Harbor in order to provoke a war so that America could take the island, and Hawaii, and the Philippines. The people, a vast number of Americans before the Maine didn't know where the Philippines was. And afterwards, they owned it. And these transitions, that was false flag. The Spanish didn't do it. Now, this is the mentality. This is the thing. And Iran is on the edge. Now, thus far, they have been patient, and they have restrained themselves, and they have understood exactly how to pursue this up to a point. There are things that we could argue about, and we will argue about. But up to this point, they have not done anything to provoke that. Now, brief digression. Note that in America's struggles with East Asia, Japan aside, Chinese Civil War, Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia, at no point did the local opposition, our enemies in those countries, do the ultimate thing and attack the American mainland. Only in 9/11 did that happen, and that was from the Middle East, not from East Asia. East Asians absorbed tremendous punishment, but were not provoked into doing something. Now, this is the Iranians. The Iranians are not Arabs. And that's a cultural distinction of enormous importance. It is a culture, however, of Sunnis and Shias, and as a consequence, they have a particular weakness for martyrdom and sacrifice. But thus far, they have restrained themselves. And if they can restrain themselves, they may get through there to victory. But if they make a false step, they could provoke an American nationalist reaction that would sweep America First away again and unite the country around the Trump administration and give the Trump administration carte blanche to do exactly what it wanted on the first day after the congressional elections, when the Senate and the House returned to Republican control even more securely than they are now. And of course, that brings us, not to bring too fine a point on it, that brings us back to Greenland. Because the minute that happens, Greenland may be doomed. Now, you see what's at stake here. The patience of Iran is decisive to all of this, and the urge to punish Iran and to provoke Iran, which is the Israeli motivation here, to do something which in other contexts would be regarded as unwise, other people would say stupid. That's what it's issue now. That's what's pending here. Every moment matters. Every judgment in Tehran matters.